Hello, everyone. This is Dave Paulsen, head men's basketball coach at George Mason University with, I don't even know what episode this is now, I think 13 or 14 of our distancing dialogues. Today, we've got Ted Rawlings, currently assistant coach at Texas A&M Commerce. Spent 3 years on our staff as a director of operations extraordinaire. Teddy Ballgame, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Coach. It's a pleasure.
This is great. And again, what the whole, if maybe this is the first time somebody's watched this, whole idea for this is during this pandemic, having the conversations over Zoom and screen sharing that we normally do with my current and former assistant coaches in the off season, you know, kind of ad hoc at a recruiting event or at the Final Four and things like that. And so what I've tried to do is I donate in honor of the guest every week for a relief agency that is providing relief to somebody in the area. And then the hope is that people who watch us see anything of value, donate as well. This week, this will be near and dear to your heart, Teddy Ballgame. I'm going to donate to Ellie's Hats. Ellie's Hats is an organization, Jay Coakley, who is actually a usher at our games, started initially to bring hats to young children in the cancer ward who were, lost their hair, but now it's gone to giving financial relief, $1,000 checks to families, gas cards, food cards, things like that. Great organization. So I'm going to donate in your honor, Teddy.
I appreciate it. I made a donation too, Coach. I made a donation to a group that I worked with when I was at Penn called the Young Quakers. They've expanded out past the sport that I was working with when I was there. They do it with track and field and basketball as well now. But I donate to the lacrosse specific one, and their initiative is to install lacrosse programs into 4 of the youth elementary schools in West Philadelphia. And it's a completely funded off of fundraising dollars from alums at Penn and other people in that sport. They've been hit pretty hard. They didn't get to have a spring season for the first time since 2012 this year. But I worked with a lot of those young 5th graders who are in high school now, and they continue that program and making a donation in that name.
That's great. And that's, again, the main thing is, each individual, that would be my only plea to anyone watching is give back to a local agency, to a national agency. If we're in a position during this pandemic, especially to give to others less fortunate, I think it's incumbent upon all of us to do it. And, it's amazing. Again, just thinking back or reading the remembrances of John Lewis, and all that he accomplished. It's amazing how much one person can accomplish, much more than what we often think of. Speaking of accomplishments, okay, we're talking about Ted Rawlings first before we get into the screen share. So I don't know if I've ever met anyone who could pack more things into one day than Ted Rawlings, okay? And again, now I don't want to say too many nice things because that would not be my character, but I've never met a more detail-oriented, meticulous, driven person anywhere. Certainly showed up in great detail here as our director of operations for 3 years. But going back to Penn, so student at Penn on the lacrosse team, right, as a goalie, at the same time as an undergraduate student manager / student assistant with the Penn basketball team.
Yes.
How was that managing? Penn is not, it's not Williams, but it's a decent academic school. So, a little bit of challenging coursework. How was that balancing all that, Ted?
It was great because it let me hide under not being great at anything. Just doing a lot of things that I didn't have to be an expert in. I loved it. It was really valuable to teach me how to manage time. And I think trying to find a way to narrow your focus is really important, but you don't have to be focused on one specific area. And I loved lacrosse. I loved competing. Wasn't particularly great at it as I got up to the college level, but the opportunity to be a part of a team, knowing that I wanted to coach, those were invaluable lessons, especially, I was a starter in high school and then I didn't play more than 30 minutes in the 4 years of college, and learning how to cope with embracing a role that might not be a role you want. It was an invaluable lesson to take on, and I think helped me excel in the ops role. And then being a student manager for basketball, I knew that I wanted to coach. I thought I wanted to go into journalism, and specifically print or broadcast sports journalism, and that industry was changing. Went through some internships as a freshman, and those experiences were terrific, but solidified that I really wanted to coach instead. And being a part of the men's basketball program at Penn with Glenn Miller and then Jerome Allen and the assistants who were all there, most notably being Mike Martin, he gave me my Division I break. They all taught me lessons about basketball, about coaching, and those are lessons I take with me today.
So just a quick, this is, again, I don't know who's watching, and it's different people have watched, and it, be my family and your family. So we know we're going to have 6 or 8 people tuning in. But again, for young coaches, I think the path that you've taken is a path that's very similar for a lot of people. I think it's really cool. Like, oh yeah, I want to be a college basketball coach. What's involved in the steps along the way. So let me see if I got these right. So you graduate from Penn, and then I think you served as a director of ops for the Penn lacrosse team while serving as an assistant basketball coach at Haverford, right? And then you went to the University of the Sciences in Philadelphia as an assistant coach. Again, I think part-time money, in both at Haverford and at Sciences. And then went to Brown as director of operations for how many years? 2, 3?
2 basketball seasons, a little less than 2 calendar years, but 2 basketball seasons.
As you said, under Mike Martin, who had been the assistant at Penn when you were an undergrad. Coach Martin, one of my very, very best friends in coaching. And as much as he wanted to hold on to you, was like, when you get an ops job opening, you're going to hire Ted Rawlings, which I did to great success, at least for our operations. 3 years in the operations role here. And then just completing your first year as a full-time assistant at Texas A&M Commerce, recruiting, coaching, scouting, and paying taxes too as a coach, which is a good thing, and a lot of the other guys that, obviously on our staff that you work with, Dane Fisher and Aaron Kelly, both worked for me or with me at Williams, where I think the high salary of that group was maybe 5,000 or 5,500. So
Right.
That's the pitfalls. Tell me, from all these stops and a lot of, as you said, grunt work, behind the scenes work, not making a ton of money early on. Tell me what the 2 or 3 things that you've most taken away from your journey this far.
I think the biggest thing I've taken away is you are going to have to find ways to learn and still do your job really, really well. And if you try to just do your job really well, your career, whatever it is, but certainly at least in basketball, is going to eventually end, because at some point you're going to move on to an on-the-floor role and a recruiting role. And if you can't talk about those things at some type of expert level, then people are going to identify that you don't know what you're talking about, and won't pay you the respect that you're looking for, and won't trust that you have their best interest in mind. But in order to get to a place where you can demonstrate what you've learned and teach it, if you haven't played, like I wasn't a player, I certainly don't deserve to just be given a role because I love basketball. I should get in line with millions of other people. You're going to have to work for that, and you're going to have to do that job really, really well in order to put yourself in a place to then show what you've learned. And that was being able to manage both of those things. Those were probably the the first two most important things I learned. And then the third, again, was excelling in your role. And I think within that definition, excelling in your role as your supervisor and your coworkers want your role to be, right? So if you are working for somebody who's expecting a number of transcripts like you do in the Ivy League, you better make sure you have as many transcripts on file as your coach wants. But when you come into a league where, like a Commmerce, we don't need to have all academic transcripts on file. So what your work is going to look like there is defined completely differently. And the goal is still to excel. Just what are those details that you need to excel in? Those are the three things I think I learned at every single stop that I've taken with me even to today.
I think there's a lot to unpack there, and I think it's really good because really good advice, especially if there's younger coaches breaking into it. You got to be an all-star in your role. The operations role, in many regards, what you did with our program for 3 years, probably the single most important role, but the least glamorous, in terms of, and I don't even, and part of the deal is I don't know if I can adequately or articulately explain what you did, which is why it shows that you did it well, because, the whole thing is to allow me and the full-time assistants to coach and recruit and scout. So travel planning, hotels, planes, buses, meals, practice planning to secure the facility, organizing the managers, keeping all of our compliance logs, managing internal communications, budgeting, intersecting, as our director of operations, you're responsible for intersecting with the business office, with the compliance office, with the promotions office, with the tickets office, with the marketing office, athletic training, sports performance. And one thing I missed, okay, I can always say, I get way less text messages now that you're no longer on the staff, because you were maniacal about reminder text messages, which was a good thing. And so I miss those. But I think, to be able to do that and still immerse yourself in the game, not knowing if the work you were doing was ever going to be asked for or valued. And I think, to me, like, you did that. And if on a random time, hey, Ted, do you know anyone who's playing this defense? And boom, you knew. Hey, you got the link to, basketball immersion? Boom, you got it. You want to take a look at a couple of these recruits films? Boom, detailed analysis. And I just think being ready at the drop of a hat for that next opportunity or expansion of your role is important for all people who are serving in assistance or ops positions. You were always ready for it. I think that's great advice.
Thanks.
Let's turn to the coaching piece. So, you had a chance to coach at Haverford in the Sciences. And then you spent 5 years in an operations role at a quote unquote higher level, at Division I level, but not able to get your hands dirty, if you will, in the coaching aspect. What did you learn in those 5 years in operations, from observing, from being in the race, but not, necessarily hands-on, that you're now able to use at Commmerce?
I think my thing that I did that I enjoyed the most, that I would encourage other assistant coaches and anybody who's trying to learn, if you look at your staff since I was at Mason, Dane Fisher's a head coach, Aaron Kelly's a head coach, Dwayne Simpkins is an associate head coach, Bryson Johnson is an assistant coach, was a GA, Jorns came in from the NBA, and I don't know Alex well, but those are the guys that I all worked with. I don't know anything in terms of the amount of volume that any of those people do, mainly because of their experiences, not because of ability, but they they just have significant more experience, right down to Tyler being in the NBA because of how long an NBA season is, and Bryson playing, amount of time, Simp playing pro, and amount of time Fish and AK have played as players and coached. So in the spring, when it, like a little bit into April, but really more like May, having a full awareness of the recruiting calendar and then our preseason or our postseason calendar, May tended to be a time where if somebody wasn't taking a 2 or 3 days off from the office, their calendars were relatively open. I used those opportunities to ask for essentially free coaching clinics. Go in to a closed door meeting and spend an hour and a half talking about very specific things. AK taught our posts. We talked about how to move, like how you want to play with your pivot feet. We talked about that for 45 minutes. We would talk about hand fighting in the low post, how to get low position and then use your offhand and battle some of the illegal things that post defenders do, especially as you get higher up in the bodies, get bigger. Fish, we talked about guards. Simp, we talked about guards. All three of them, we talked about recruiting. And I didn't know a lot anyway. So, but I didn't ask questions with the fear of being perceived as, I don't understand how you don't know this answer. I just asked questions and then took detailed notes and reread those notes through today, and then try to implement those things that I learned from those conversations. Those details are too long to sit here and discuss, but that method, I think, is an easily, everybody can easily do that. And I would encourage people who are looking to learn to do that. And then the things I learned from watching was how important it is to have control over your voice. And if you want to use anger, for example, to try to elicit an emotion, well, you don't want to be angry all the time. And if you want to bring somebody in and have a friendship with them, or you can't be nice to them all the time, you got to hold them accountable, sometimes in a really hard fashion, be demanding of them so that they know you're going to push them and get the best out of them. And as an ops guy, I don't have to do any of that. I can just watch all of the staff do those things and see what I think works and see what I think doesn't, and then apply it to myself. And I have a lot of Italian and Irish in me, so I struggle with my voice anyway. So it's been good to sit down and watch people who have really mastered tone and delivery and the actual words that are coming out of their mouth. It's not just random. There's a reason why they're saying that. Those have been really valuable lessons in the 5 years that I had under Coach Martin and then under yourself as well.
Again, I know you're going to have good stuff in your screen sharing, and know that. And we joke with the staff, my staff, yeah, well, I don't know if Ted will be very organized in his presentation. And that's a running joke. But I do think, boy, there's some great stuff. Like, this is as good of information that somebody can take away, especially someone who's interested in getting into the coaching profession and, quote unquote, moving up in the coaching profession. So many people talk about wanting opportunities, and that's one thing that you consistently did, was sought out opportunities to sit down with Fish, AK, with Simp. The guy, truthfully, that you should be spending more time connecting with, I am. I just want the per diem money. Ryan Frazier's going to be an NBA head coach. We did that distance dialogue. Man. So that's one of the neatest things, to me. And this is one thing I think that you don't understand is you sitting down with AK for an hour and a half, or Fish or Simp. That helped those guys as well, because it forced them to think, rethink, rearticulate, well, why am I doing this? And what is the value? And what's the purpose? And so while it may not have been the intent, the unintended positive consequence of always thinking, analyzing, critiquing, discussing what you do. One of the best things for me, people ask me, and I was a Division III coach for a long time before I got a Division I head coaching job, is the two things for me is, instead of being the JV soccer coach and teaching 2 PE classes and serving on a university committee, all of which are really good, really important, is I could spend my entire day immersed in basketball. And the other thing is, instead of a 22-year-old fresh out of college who makes $5,000 to discuss, bounce things off of, now I have a staff of veterans, of guys who've been in the profession, who've had different experiences, and so just the quality of those conversations. That's part of the fun.
Yeah, like Ryan Frazier, we talked for 45 minutes about locking and trailing. That literally 45 minutes, and it's probably because I ask a couple questions and start to ramble as I ask a question, because Ryan's very succinct in how he answers things. So, but there's a lot to unpack just with, we all know how to teach it, but why do guys still not execute it well? And Ryan had 4 or 5 examples of what guys didn't do well and why he was able to do it well. And he thought that helped him excel as a defender at Bucknell. And then Ryan elevated, I know this stuff doesn't matter because it's not basketball, but the stat sheet that we used to practice my 3rd year there, that was Ryan Frazier's document. He literally sat down and, because of his experience on Wall Street, was able to change and make the stats more efficient, which then freed up time for me to spend more time looking at basketball. So just asking for help, even if it's something that you think you do well already. Though when I went from Brown to Mason, even though I had less help at Brown, I had way more things I was responsible for at Mason, because it's A-10, it's a state school, it's a big school, all of those things different than Brown. I needed help if I wanted to be able to still do basketball. And I think one of the things about everybody you've ever hired is everybody's always hands on deck. You can never not ask for help and have somebody say, no, I'm not going to do that. And working with people like that has been really, I've been very, very lucky everywhere I've been, and especially at Mason with stuff like that.
We've been blessed. We've got great people, in addition to really good basketball minds and teachers, but we've got great people that I get to work with every day. And like you said, that's what makes it fun. And no job's too big, no job's too small, and that's been great. All right, let's go to the portion now where you're going to just give your little clinic, and a lot of this is about what you guys do at Texas A&M Commerce. So go to work.
Awesome. I am going to shamelessly recruit for a minute too, Coach, because it's an opportunity.
And I don't want to be committing an NCAA violation. This is a disclaimer right now.
We're going to just to talk a little bit about one of our guys. You can see the presentation I have up here, right?
Yep.
Okay, so our video is going to be on Wayne Stewart here, and Wayne graduated here. He actually finished up in December and then started his master's early. He's going to be playing pro overseas this upcoming year. But what I wanted to do really is just look at what he did. Is his junior year, he transferred in for New Mexico State. He only played in 15 games. And if you come over and look at his three-point field goal percentage, only made 7, 20%.
Are those stats from New Mexico State?
No, there are stats at Commmerce. So he redshirted at New Mexico State, had an injury there.
Okay. So 2018-19 at Commmerce, he played in 15 games. And
Yep. Okay. And he was very productive in 2 of those games. He scored 20 plus. I wasn't on the staff yet there. So I don't have a lot of information about what he did well and what he didn't do well other than our meetings. But you could see it right here. I mean, he wasn't a high volume rebounder, less than 4 rebounds a game, less than 21% from 3. And those are important stats to know for 2 reasons. One, you could see his development to his senior year, made 43 threes, shot 46% from 3. He's 8 rebounds a game. And at one point he was averaging 19 and 10. He was a double-double guy for us. He was the 4th best player in our league, first team All-Lone Star. His growth was substantial. And there's a lot of reasons why. Ended up being all Division II in Texas, 2nd team All-District for NABC, dark horse dunker. He's even on Sports Center with Scott Van Pelt. He had an incredible senior year, and he's going to be playing pro next year. He's already signed with an agency even with COVID. And there's a lot of reasons why all of that happened. And I'm going to bring up a video that we have here to kind of talk about it. But before we jump into Wayne, I think the first thing you have to do is talk about our staff. And Jarrett von Rosenberg, he's our head coach. Jarrett is really, really good at telling his staff exactly what he wants to see. We know everything that we're trying to get accomplished offensively and defensively every day. It hasn't changed since he's been there. And then he's hands off. So he puts people in charge of things. He watches and oversees, but he really lets the assistants go and execute what he's expecting to be executed. The person who developed Wayne was a combination of Jarrett and then our associate head coach, Coleman first. And one thing you're going to see in this video at the very end, Wayne was in the top 7th percentile of post-up scoring this year as a senior. He didn't have one post-up possession his junior year. Coleman first completely elevated Wayne's game. And our staff, I think those guys do a really good job of being humble, and one of your core values, like humility is high level. They all say Wayne got this done because of Wayne, and it's true for sure. But Coleman was the person who helped implement the things that Wayne added to his game. He's a tremendous player development coach. He's coached and played in the league and has a good idea of what these guys need to be able to do. And then we had an assistant, Javon Austin, who was at New Mexico State with Wayne and then came here and worked with Wayne. And he was in the gym with Wayne every single day and just basically trying to get 500 makes. And that's how he elevated himself as a three-point shooter. Nothing more complicated than that. Just making 500 threes a day. He was doing that with Javon. And then the guy who created this video, his name's Cam Schott. He was one of our GAs. Cam is no longer with us, but what we're going to see in this video is we're going to look at our spacing concepts at Commmerce, our shot selection, how we want to drive the basketball, and then how we want to play in the post along with post-ups. And what Cam did is he took clips of Wayne in his junior year where he struggled with these concepts and then showed clips his senior year where he executes them. And the goal here is seeing how much different Wayne executed very simple things and how executing those better helped elevate all of his production. Rose did a really unique thing with the group. Middle of this past year, brought everybody in the circle at the end of practice and just read out Wayne's stats from his junior year and just went, did not play, 10 minutes a game. And for the guys who were frustrated with playing time, the message to those guys were all that Wayne did was he started to execute what we wanted to see done better. There are things that Wayne can do for sure, but they might not be what we're looking to get done. And if Wayne tries to get that stuff done, he's going to end up being on the bench. And when he embraced playing within the system and the structure that Rose wanted to see, his productivity took off. Again, 4th best player in our league, a league that's got kids from Ohio State, Ole Miss, Texas in it. He was still the 4th best player. He's playing pro overseas now. So, but can you see the video here, Coach? Is that pulled up? Awesome. So first thing we're going to look at here is some of our spacing concepts. And again, this is from his freshman year. And the first 2 clips, you're going to just look at straight line angled ball screens. And this is, this is a juxtaposed clip from year 1 to year 2. So in year 1, you'll see Wayne come over here in this ball screen action. And we have a very specific thing that we want him to do here. We know that this guard was a second-team national All-American. He's going to draw 2. We want Wayne to just ball screen and stay behind that action like he does there. And instead, in that first clip, Wayne dives. He just takes a really bad shot. He'll do something similar here where he really in this action here when we're 4 wide.
He's 21.
He's over here in the corner, number 12. So this is Deontay Terrell. Wayne, in this set, what we would want to see is Wayne to literally just stay in that deep corner. Our offensive principles in an action like this, where we're just in our flow, is we want to have both corners, dead corners filled. We want to have this guy in that slot and turn this into a ball screen. Defensive set is causing the struggle here. West Texas A&M jumps out into passing lanes and doubles ball screens. So Deontay should come over and present more as an outlet. But the big thing here is we've got a one-man tag just your simple defensive concept. If Wayne stays home, he's going to have a naked three. Instead, he ends up having a turnover in the post. You'll see it here. Wayne gets out. He's at the top of the screen here. Same exact kind of defensive situation here. You're going to have one tag over there. Nobody's able to get it. Wayne's able to knock down that three. So he's creating better threes for himself just by getting himself in better spots. In this action here, we're playing out of what we call high, horn set here. All we want Wayne to do is catch this, pivot, look at the rim, and then get to a ball screen. And we want him to stop right in that spot. This action, he's going to dive into the play, and he just ends up taking a bad shot at the rim. This one from this year, his development, same exact action, drive downhill, stays behind it, gets himself a naked uncontested three. That's really what we're trying to get done with our spacing. We want to have two guys in the corner, guys in the slots, and then a big, ideally away from the ball, who has options to come up and set ball screens. Wayne is a 4 for us, so he can do both, and he's got to be one of the smarter players on the floor, and he just needed those reps more than anything. But when he started executing ball screen and pop and filling behind, small fill behinds, his three-point percentage went through the roof because he was getting naked threes. That's really what it was for him more than anything. With our shot selection, Rose is a really unique with how he talks about threes. When we recruit players, if you shoot 30%, and really it's 29.5%, we're going to take you and expect you to take threes. Rose does not want guys worried about taking bad shots. He wants them to feel comfortable taking threes. So what we're looking for are 33s a game, and we didn't always get to that number, but ideally we would take 33s a game, and then every other shot is a shot at the rim or a dunk. Ideally a layup and a dunk, but we'll let smaller guards take floaters inside of 8 feet. Those are the shots that we're trying to get. If a guy takes a mid-range shot, we don't jump him. We categorize our shots as great, pretty good, good, and okay. And then we talk about them in film sessions all the time. And if we're noticing that guys are starting to take pull-up shots and mid-range pull-ups, then we'll bring this conversation up. But if it's only 1 or 2 times and it's a guy who we know is just going to continue to do that, we do our best to try to do that and to bring that up in an individual meeting. The kind of shots that we're trying to take from the perimeter, ideally, unless you're a 45% three-point shooter, we don't want you to take a shot inside of the first 10 seconds of the shot clock. And the idea there, yep.
Any shot or a three?
Any three, and really any shot. Now, if we're in a transition situation, an odd man break or a too fast break, we want to go and attack at the rim. But when we're coming down off of a make, we are trying to make the defense guard 2 or 3 actions. In our league, we have some teams that are really, really lazy defensively. And so what would happen, we would have sets where teams would know we were going to pick and pop and throw to the pop guy and would still drop coverage. And they just baited us into throwing the pop pass and then taking that three. First action three. And if you're only a 32% three-point shooter, you're going to miss a lot of those shots, and you're creating transition opportunities for an unorganized offense. So that's really the only reason why we're doing that, is to try to make a team guard and give ourselves a chance to score at a higher percentage. We know if we can get a great shot 4 seconds into a shot clock, we're going to be able to get a great shot later as well. But then really with our threes, what we want to try to do is get our feet on the line, our toes right in front of the line, so know where we are on the floor. And then we want to be able to take partial or late contested threes. So we want guys who feel like they're open to take shots, catch and shoot threes. We're not, as long as it's not fully contested, we want that to go up. And then we send 3, 4, and 5 to the glass. So that's part of the reason why we're okay with a partially and certainly a late contested three. We're not just trying to get naked threes. And then the final thing the reason we do that is we tell our guys, hey, we recruited you because you're a player. So we want you to be a player, and you're going to have to make some hard shots. Take shots to make them. Don't take them to take them. And what you'll see with Wayne's first few shots here is you're going to see a guy, he's got the ball right now, who just doesn't know what we're trying to get done offensively. And so we're playing in the conference championship game or quarterfinal game here. He's going to end up taking a foot on the NBA three-point line because he has no idea where he is on the floor. We would be okay with him shooting this with his defender sitting under the ball screen. But we're really early in the shot clock. UTPB is playing us denying passing lane, so we run we call it wide. We want to be in our 4-out motion and just pull our spots up. So the guys in the corners do start at the wings and our slots start up higher. But we want to now run offense. And Wayne gets flustered and takes a really bad shot, just dribbles into a shot. He'll do something similar over here. What we would want is Wayne on this catch. He's got a great shooter in the corner to turn, hit, and sprint to a ball screen or get to a DHO. Instead, Wayne just puts the ball down on the floor, and he ends up taking a really, really bad shot. Again, we would just say an okay shot, but that's what ends up happening. Same deal with Wayne here. He has a really bad roll, and so what he ends up allowing 2 guys to tag him and both guys to recover, which is obviously not great defense. But if Wayne just pops out, he's going to get 1 tag, and he'll have 2 naked guys on this backside action. If he's willing to catch, look at the rim, and pivot, and then get off that action, we'll just get an extra pass and a 1 more for a naked 3. We both have 40% three-point shooters over here. So Wayne, as a junior, he's just playing way, way too fast. Similar thing here. What you'll see is we have a cross-screen action. Wayne knows that we're trying to throw the ball in the post. Because he doesn't feel comfortable with it, now he doesn't know what to do, and he just jacks a shot. So he's just trying to learn the offense, and once he learns it, great things happen. So you remember that second clip we just looked at where he doesn't chase it to a ball screen. We chase it, he pops it, he gets a naked 3. Partial contest, but we're cool with that thing. He shoots it for 45%. It's absolutely what we're looking for. Same kind of action here. You're going to get what will look like a trap ball screen, just fade away from that action. Partially contested 3, he's able to knock that down. Those are the kind of shots we're looking for him to do. Same thing, he gets himself to the corner. And what we tell our guys is, look, the spacing is not always going to be perfect. So we're going to have our guard here. He's going to cut through, shallow cut through. He's going to fill a corner that Wayne's in already. And we're okay with that. You've got yourself an open 3. We want you to take that. We don't have to have every offensive action be perfect. We just need to have 1 good scoring action happen. And then again, Wayne was a 4-5. So what Wayne will have down here is he's going to actually try to post up, and he'll stay away. And then once he's in this post, he's the 5-man here. He's the true 5, but he's got an option for a guard if he refuses to get out of that because he's such a good 3-point shooter. He doesn't have to stay in that dunk spot. And those are kind of the things we're looking for from our 4 men. And then the last thing that Wayne added to his game was get all the way to the rim. So those first 2 clips, we saw him take pull-ups. Here he gets himself all the way to the rim. And again, that all came from just Coleman drilling and player development. These are we're not going to work on any pull-up stuff, Wayne. We've got to get ourselves to the rim. We've got to make sure we're finishing at the rim. And then what we're emphasizing every day in practice. I thought it was really, really good. One of the reasons why Wayne becomes such a better field goal percentage shooter. And then going to controlled drives with him. So what we have, we're a lot like what we talk about at Mason, Coach. So we try to play off of 2 as much as possible. But what we really focus on is when you get a catch, get your eyes to the rim. And again, we want you to pivot, look at what the defense is giving you. And then when you put the ball down on the floor, can you stay on your line? Can you finish through contact? And are you able to make pass plays if those are the right plays to make? Or are you just a head down, downhill driver? Wayne, his first year, head down, downhill driver. So you're going to notice downhill drive, naked 3 here for a 40% 3-point shooter. He doesn't come to 2, takes a really bad shot. Same thing, you're going to see a 45% 3-point shooter in the corner at the bottom of your screen. Wayne has no idea that he's there. He's just got his head down, catches, no eyes to the rim, no pivot, just dribbles right away, goes right to the rim, bad shot, missed 3. This is this year, right? So what did Wayne do? He got better at not dribbling the ball right away. Big point of emphasis for us. He looks, sees the offense, jabs, sets up the defense, downhill drive, and we focus on this all the time. He finishes through contact. It's just fake contact here from Higgins from international, but he drives right through that, and he gets himself all the way to the rim. Similar thing for us here. The guy, this is a little action that we ran for him, just a horns ball screen and then a 4-5 ball screen because we knew he was a good downhill driver. So our 5-man comes and sets that flare. We'll hopefully get a switch. If we don't, now Wayne's just playing ISO. This kid who's guarding him played at Ole Miss. He's a high major athlete. Wayne jabs him, sets him up, and then is able to come to a spin move, counter move under control because he jabs and then he loads up here. That load up gets his body under control. And now if he needs to come to a stop, he's able to come to a stop. He gets Halams coming all the way downhill. Halams isn't going to be able to stop, and he finishes naked at the rim. Huge addition for Wayne. And then same thing here. Wayne's going to finish against the grain here. Okay, we're not running any offense here. Wayne gets to a step up. We have a guard who isn't really sure what to do, so spacing isn't great. But we're going to let him clear, and then Wayne knows he can beat this man one-on-one, looks at the defense jab, and then a drive and just punches it. And those are things that Wayne was not able to do his junior year. Again, a really simple thing. Don't dribble the ball the second you touch it, and then have a plan when you drive. Can you make kick passes? Can you play with your head up? Can you come to a stop and then change directions all in one movement? That's all we're trying to do with Wayne. And we teach those things because in our 4-out offense, we're not trying to come down and run a set. We're trying to throw the ball to the wing, cut through, throw the ball into the post, and we'll show that later. But that was a big emphasis for Wayne's growth. What we're looking at here now, just playing through contact. So what you're going to see with Wayne, who should be coming into the middle of our screen here, he's going to jump away and he's never going to get his body into players. Here you're going to see him try to rebound this and throw it right back at the floor before he even lands, just throws it right back up, never gathers himself, just playing very, very, very fast. Now, one of the things and we'll look at it here, but one of the things that I've learned is what playing like the game is too fast means. What does that look like? These 3 clips are a guy where the game is way too fast for him. This game of basketball for Wayne, this level as a junior, that shot proves that it's way too fast for him. Here, we're going to watch Wayne try to initiate contact. He doesn't make the contact, but he doesn't freak out. He just goes up, and he's like, all right, I'm going to be able to lay that in the basket. This next one, similar thing. He initiates on the rebound, gathers, dribbles, initiates again, and goes up. The game is slowing down for Wayne. And what we tried to do was emphasize for our other big guys, this is what slowing down looks like. Bad catch, no worries, pivot, finish. Just playing slower. Wayne adding that into his game was huge. But what we had to do was show him film. We tell our guys, hey, you're playing too fast. I have no idea what that means because we're also telling them to sprint and transition. And they're like, I thought you wanted me to sprint and transition. And learning how to slow down and come to stops and pivot and gather, those were huge for Wayne. Just really good. And Wayne wasn't great at chin checking the ball. We weren't going to make him do that. Instead, we were like, look, wherever it is, you have to make sure you have a good vice grip on that ball. If you're not going to get it to your chin, you still can't lose it. If you're going to lose it, then you've got to get it up to your chin. Whatever's going to work for you is fine, but you have to play through the contact. That's our message. And then here with our dunk spot finishes. So again, he was a 4-5, and when he was a junior, he just really struggled with this stuff. So he's in that gray right now, getting away, does a really good job shaping away from the ball, but then just not playing with contact. He shies away from a guy that he's bigger and stronger from. You can see his back fading away from the basket, doesn't gather, misses a shot at the rim. Here, you're going to watch Wayne actually step up into a drive. It's going to be the next clip, rather. This one coming up right here. He's going to step up into a line drive. And this kid was player of the year in our league, and Wayne not knowing to get his ankles or his heels, rather, back on this baseline area takes away a drive for the best player in our conference. We end up taking that shot. So it's a shot at the rim, but it's still not a great shot for us. Here, we watch Wayne not take up space, gets away, and then initiates contact and plays through. Same action here. He's going to just stay low. It doesn't creep up, stays low. He's able to finish at the rim. Same thing here. What we try to do for guys like Alex Peavy, who's right here, our other big guys, Wayne took off in December. This stuff didn't happen right away. And when his points per game went up, everybody saw him just making threes. He had a couple impressive drives into dunks, and that's what everybody wanted to do. Wayne was averaging about 12 points a game in the dunk spot originally because he was getting fouled and then getting to the free throw line, finishing with contact and getting an extra point. And when our bigs were able to buy into getting away into those spaces, our efficiency offensively went through the roof. It was really, really good. Same kind of concept here. just playing low and away. You don't need to always be in the action. We had really good guards who were going to be able to get him the basketball. So just trust our spacing. That was really our message with him. And then finally, post game, right? It's what I said about with Coleman first. He didn't have a single post-up possession his junior year. And Coleman was able to implement all of this into his game. 1.122 points per possession, top 7% nationally of all Division II. He was a stud down here. And we could talk a little bit about what we're trying to do offensively. Same stuff that you guys do, Coach. I think most teams do. We call post elbow. We want to get the ball into the post, and then we want to have some kind of split action. Well, we're doing this almost 100% of the time, where the guy who's going to set the screen is going to, or the guy who's receiving the screen is going to refuse it. Other guy's going to pop. And what does Wayne do? He just watches all the action. He doesn't rush his dribble, and now he's isolated in the post. I know that we're talking right now in basketball about post-up play and true fives being gone in the game. But you watch Brunson at Villanova, and you watch LeBron in the NBA and Kawhi Leonard, you might have true fives gone, but those who can post up, it's the most efficient form of your offense. You know, it creates a vacuum like you talk about, and if it doesn't create a vacuum, you're able to score right at the rim and put tons of pressure on bigs to not foul, right? And that's what we're doing in these first three possessions. We're throwing it in, we have cutting action, and then we have a guy just going and making one-on-one plays in the post. And he was tremendous at it. And this was just a matter of repetition from Coleman. Just that he worked on this every single day. And again, we did not always make smart plays. I would think that this is a really low-level play. We're going to have a guy, low-level IQ play. We have a guy driving on top of Wayne as Wayne tries to get away from the action. It's just not a great drive. You should swing it. But Wayne doesn't panic. He catches and then just lets the offense get set. And now he's going to make a one-on-one play. Nobody wants to dig down and help. I'll go and score and put pressure on a guy who can't guard me. It was what he was really, really good at. Okay. Same deal here. Nobody wants to help. I'm going to just go down and score in the low post. He was elite at it. And one of the reasons he was is because he's a really good passer as well. We had great shooters on the perimeter. So if you left Dion Barrett or Alberto Moreno, Leo Lara, Alex Peavy, Austin Grandstaff was a Jordan Brand All-American. He played at Ohio State. You're not going to help off those guys. So Wayne is going to go score in the post. And then once Wayne has 3 straight possessions, now we can get all of our split action and get naked threes and second and third level ball screens. We tried to build everything out of getting Wayne a post touch as often as we could. And when we did, we were really, really efficient.
Good stuff.
Yeah, that's good. And I got to give a shout out again. Cam's shot was amazing. We gave him that video project back in March. And we said, Cam, we need you to look at all of Wayne's stuff from his junior year and all the stuff he didn't do well that we talk about. We need a clip of what he did well this year. Just go and do it. And Wayne and Cam came back with that a day later. And I think Wayne will tell you, like, his progression because of Cam and Javon being in the gym, and then Trey Conrad's on our staff. Trey played with Wayne. Trey is so much like Bryson. And in those clips, you'll see a coach jumping up in the 2020 clips after everything that Wayne does well. That coach is Trey. Like, Wayne was set up to excel if he bought in. And when he bought in, he turned into the 4th best player in the league, got himself a pro contract, even during the COVID crisis that we have. He's a pleasure to be around. But I thought it was a real team effort with his approach and then the staff's approach well before I got there. I just got to kind of come in and learn. It was really nice.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's great stuff. Well, and again, I think a lot of good things there. The video's there. Ted, can you give your email if people want to reach out and ask more about what you guys are doing?
Yes, it's ted.rawlings, RAWLINGS, at tamuc.edu.
All right, perfect. Again, the genius is in the simplicity, and I think that's what I've always been about, and that's clear. Just, I had no idea how you guys play at Commmerce, but you can see you're playing with spacing, you're playing with principles, you're playing through your best player, and there was a plan. And there's a lot of different ways to play, a lot of different offensive approaches, defensive approaches, but there was a clear plan. And hey, Wayne, here's the areas that you got to get better at. There was an individual development plan, a team cohesiveness plan. And obviously he and the rest of your team bore the fruits of that.
Yeah,
So,
and that's all Rose, coach. Like he comes in, our guys know what do we run offensively. We run space and pace. That's what. If you ask our guys what's our offense, they'll say space and pace. They won't say 4 out or high or Kentucky ball screen or circle ball screen. Those are some of our sets. They'll say our offense is space and pace, and we do it a number of different ways. And I think that's why we've been good. Simplicity, like you talked about. And that's all Jarrett. He's really, really good at what he does, and we're lucky to have him leading the group.
that's awesome. That's great stuff. Ted, thank you for sharing all this. A good contribution as we're still battling our way through the pandemic, and hopefully we got a season to play soon. So appreciate it very, very much.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. It's great to see you, even if it's just through a computer screen. I'll be following you guys if we have a season, always wishing you guys the best.
Thanks, Teddy.